Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, the new and experienced investor podcast. We are the #1 live podcast in Laguna Hills. Joe loves that.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. No, but we're a real estate podcast that brings investors from all walks of life together. So I'm happy to be back. Producer and I went on a little trip, kind of gallivanted around the world for a bit. And
A little trip.
yeah.
For 3 weeks.
It was 3 weeks. Yeah, it was pretty fun. It's good times.
We're going to do 6 next time. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically, it was long enough to where we came back and our cat had forgotten who we were.
That is true. It was very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a cat person, so maybe that's a good thing.
No, it's not. It's very
No?
bad. It's a very bad thing.
I know
If you met our
producers.
cat, you would be a cat person.
Yeah.
That's what she does to people.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Alex Barnett. I'm the new guy.
And I'm Joe Holmes. I'm the experienced guy and glad to be back. 'Cause
Yes.
When he left for 3 weeks and then I left a week
Yeah.
after that. So I just got back as well. This is our first podcast back. So it's been a month
Yeah.
since we've had one.
It feels good. And we have an amazing guest here in studio. This guy, he's done projects all around the world. Super smart guy, architect. We're going to learn about all things, how to use ADUs to boost your wealth, how to get more cash flow. All the questions you had about ADUs, bring them here today. Make sure you guys share this. We're live right now, so please share this on your page and get more people to view in, jump in, get some questions answered live.
If you have questions, drop them in the chat.
Yeah, so think about them as we go through and then just drop them in the chat and we'll get them answered live. So before we do that, really quick, let's talk about our next meetup.
At the end of this month, on a Monday,
Yep.
6 p.m.,
Yep.
Hangar 24, and I have a special guest coming who I met last month. Very, very interesting person. He does multifamily, and most of it is out of state multifamily. So he's traveling back and forth to wherever he has his projects. But what was very interesting when I started to talk to him about a month ago was that he was doing this around, 2008. And if you were around then, there was a big crash. And he was doing this with a couple of partners, and they were investing in properties, and the world fell apart on him. And his partners left him holding the bag. And obviously the investors weren't too happy when he started losing properties left and right. And ended up spending, I think he said 10 years in jail.
Ooh, that's not good.
10 years in jail. Took away his license. But since then, he's back. He is licensed again with the SEC.
Okay.
And he's doing the same thing he was doing back then, obviously with the experience of the downturn. He's doing things differently. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic speaker to have, that's not afraid to tell us about his past and how he got there and what to be careful for. So if you're going to attend a meeting this year, this is probably the one that you need to attend.
Okay.
Okay. Number one, if you're scared in any way, I'm sure he'll set you straight. He's doing stuff out of state as well, which is more difficult than in state, but that's where he finds his deals. And so he's going to talk about all that.
Nice.
You know?
All my questions are going to be prison related. Is that
Okay.
all right?
No, that's okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. He spent time I did ask him, he spent time in a federal prison. So
Club fed,
Exactly.
white collar,
Exactly.
low.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Like low max or whatever. Like not max, but like low. I don't know. Like where the fences aren't up, you can go out, come back.
You
and
go have a drink at the bar nearby.
Just gotta be back by
stuff like
6.
that. Yeah, just have to be back by 6.
I
So.
think a lot of people went down during that time.
Yes.
And it was like that though, because then he's able to get his license
Yeah.
again and start a fund. So
Yeah. Yeah. Minimum security, I think you're talking about.
Minimum security. Yeah,
Minimum
thanks.
security.
Is that where Martha Stewart went?
Yes. In fact, they used to hang out at the common fence there and talk and stuff like that.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring in a man who doesn't need to go to prison to get the street cred.
Okay.
He is an architect. He works on custom homes, ADUs, rehabs. Been in the game for 25 years. Done projects all around the world. We're so lucky to have him. Simon Hibbert. What's up?
How you doing?
Good. Thank you
very much.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us.
I feel like that's a tough description to follow.
No.
I don't have any prison cred.
No, we don't want prison credit. We don't want prison credit. So go ahead, introduce yourself to everybody. Kind of what got you into real estate? What were you doing before? And
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to be here. This is amazing. Like I said when I walked in, but Simon Hibbert, Design Ethos is the name of the company. And I started right around 2018. I did go through that 2008 crash through my own way.
Okay.
In architecture, we usually are kind of ahead of the game on that stuff. So around 2006, 2007, we could start feeling it. And we knew it was kind of coming, in some ways. And then when it hit, obviously it hit us too.
Do you have that feeling now?
No.
Really?
And actually, curiously, and maybe this is just blind, naivete, but I haven't felt that way since then.
Me either.
So even through the other ups and downs, but
I felt it back then.
yeah,
I did, but I don't feel that now.
yeah. But that doesn't mean I don't know. I mean, so far so good, right? Just live every day.
Yeah.
So we do ADUs, custom homes, like you said, a lot of remodels. Love small architecture, love pocket homes, pocket neighborhoods, and ADUs, SB9. And all of that good jazz, a lot of stuff that we can talk about. I got into this because I like to draw. I was going to be a career aviation pilot, working for the airlines, and I slowly worked out of that idea and got into architecture and city planning. Love drawing in perspective, love learning how to draw, and I had a lot of really great mentors that still would draw by hand. And that was just jazz to me. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to learn how to do that. And so just bit by bit, just grind every day. And then got into architecture and just love the aspects of, residential architecture mostly. Some other stuff we've done, but I like designing homes, like working with people. I like helping people. You get these homeowners and they have a vision. They've been thinking about it for a couple of years. They don't know what they want. Or they maybe they know what they want, but they don't know how to, describe it to you or put it on paper, obviously. And I love bringing it to life for them and really helping them get where they want to be. And it's they're very thankful, and I'm very thankful to be a part of their lives. And I get to see, get to work with the end users. Because for a lot of years I worked at different companies, and that was wonderful. I had a lot of good experience, but our clients were home builders and developers, and so they were making educated guesses, but they were always guessing as to what their end users, the people that were going to buy, what they wanted. But now I get to work with the actual people that are living in the home and really help bring to life what they want. So,
wow, that's got to be pretty fulfilling.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, I think, like they say, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Right. And it might sound kind of cliche, but I do feel that way. Like I really am thankful for what I do. And I've learned that, I love helping people and guiding them through the process, and it can be a quagmire. Mm-hmm. And people get frustrated, at cities and the permit process. But we we can get there. We all get there.
Do you know what the safest airline in the world is?
No.
Qantas.
Is that right?
Never had an accident.
Wow.
Qantas.
Okay.
Thought I'd throw it out there.
Snapple facts with Joe.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a property, multifamily. I won't say where. I don't want you people taking my property from me.
Good call. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex would take it.
Yeah, I would.
It's 5 units. Okay, that's a main house, and then they built 4 other one-bedroom condos on the property.
Wow. This is like a train leaves Boston at 3 a.m. What time does it meet the other one?
Yeah.
It's like a mad problem.
So is that an SB9 situation where I could do something to divide that and kind of make them like a condominium and sell those units off individually? Is that possible?
So what I'll caveat all of this with is, we have state regulations and we have city or county regulations. And the states, really set forth a lot of incentives and some rules for the cities and counties to follow, but then they can sort of make some adjustments. The fork in the road is if you're looking at multifamily, if it's zoned multifamily, even if there's just one house on there, but it's zoned multifamily, then you're not going to go down the SB9 route. You're going to go down an ADU route. And multifamily projects can do one of two things. They can do either 2 detached ADUs on the property, or they can use what's called the 25% rule. And that means you can build as many ADUs as 25% of the number of units that are already there. So if you've got 5 units, you can build 1 ADU. Whether you do that as a conversion of a garage space, or a conversion of like a storage space or some non-residential space at the moment.
Okay, so. That's not my goal. My goal is it possible to split that up into condominiums to sell them?
Is it it's like an apartment project right now?
No, it's a multifamily.
Okay.
So it's obviously near the beach. I'll tell you where it's at. Near the beach. Literally 2 blocks away from the beach, and they're having difficulty selling it. And I'm thinking if I could buy it at a certain price and sell these 1-bedroom condos,
yes,
which there's some literally across the street, there's a condo complex,
right?
Sell them off individually and then make money that way. And
okay, yeah. So that's called a condo conversion.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't done many of those, but they can be tricky animals because, you've got an existing building, but you're now going to sell them individually. And the tricky part would be, what do you need to bring up to code if it's not already there? Mm-hmm. And probably the most tricky part of that would be parking. So if it's got a good amount of parking there, then you're probably halfway there.
Okay.
But the best thing to do would be to reach out to the city and talk to them about, how do I go through a condo conversion for this property?
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would mean getting an attorney involved, drawing up HOA documents.
Yeah, it probably would need that for the HOA part.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not my area of expertise, but that does sound very logical. Yeah. But it may involve, like from my realm, it may involve getting an architect involved in order to help with any, sort of basic plans, unless you're making changes to the building. But if you're really just trying to map it, to get that on record. But then probably more importantly is like what you're talking about, HOA and how that then works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking about the wrong law then.
No, I mean, well, it's just a different, and there's so many avenues in residential, right? From all the way from tiny homes to single family to multifamily to towers of mixed use, right? So that's just, I would call that a condo conversion.
Okay.
I participated in one in San Clemente, but it didn't go all the way through yet. It's kind of still at the beginning stages. So that's why I don't know that much about those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing people, I guess, utilizing SB9 to the fullest extent? What's the best play with that?
So SB9 is an interesting animal because it's almost like they should have written it as SB9A and SB9B. And what I mean by that is under SB9, you can do a lot split. Let's call that SB9A. And that means you can take a piece of residential property and split it into 2 pieces. And now each of those 2 are like free and clear lots. So you can do, a single family house on there and an ADU on there, just as if they were always 2 pieces of property. Or you can do what's called a 2-unit development. And that sounds like a duplex, but it doesn't actually have to be like an attached duplex, like you might think of 2 units stuck next to each other. And in the 2-unit development, you don't actually split the lot. So you still have 1 lot, 1 ownership, and it's almost like building a big ADU. It can still have the same limits in terms of the size of the ADU, but you might be able to do 2 stories. We've done that whereas an ADU, typically is limited to like 1 story because of its height limit. So far in my experience, we've had a couple of projects that have tried to lot split, and they've been unsuccessful. And the reason they've been unsuccessful is because they're in the right place. They're in in an urban environment or urban, suburban where we all are in Orange County. They've got enough parking, enough access, you name it, the litany list, they're fine. But what ends up happening is the fees involved from all of us cast of characters between architects, civil engineers, structural engineer, geotech, all of us players, it becomes cost prohibitive very quickly. Because in order to make a new lot, you're essentially making a new map, and that goes through a separate process. And it's a very similar process to if you did a development of 10 or 100 or 500 homes. And for us, for one lot owner, that might be too much.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot more success doing the 2-unit development, and it's basically, like I say, it's like going through an ADU process, or it's more similar to that. But the nice thing is you can still do an ADU, so it's not taking that away. It's not either or.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, and it's so typical, I think, I guess, of just California, where it's like the SB 9 is going to solve all our problems. This is going to answer all the affordability, the housing crisis. Then they add in all the extra regulations, I guess, or that are already set up, and then that's where you hit the wall, and it doesn't make sense at that point. So then people can't really utilize it to the full extent.
I would say, every project we do is case by case. So, you might have a blank piece of land. It's hard to find nowadays, right? But you might find one, and it's got great access. And let's say that there's nothing on it, like there are no homes on it right now, or maybe there's one home and it's located on a part of the lot that doesn't preclude you from splitting it evenly. And it might be a winner because you're already planning on going through that process, and the goal, the achievement of 4 units on what was only going to be 1 unit is well worth it. But if you're approaching it from the standpoint of like, well, okay, I live here, this is my principal house, I'm going to sell off the back half of this lot, it should be a pretty easy thing to do. Then you're approaching it sort of from a naive standpoint, and you're going to run into that wall or walls. But if you approach it more from a developer standpoint, and going into it, okay, there's going to be this cost, but I can amortize that over the life of this project, then it's going to be a lot more, it's going to be a lot easier to swallow.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because I remember, recently I've been talking to a lot of buyers. I do wholesaling and stuff, and they're like, if you find me a lot this size to where I can put an ADU on there, that's kind of what they're looking for right now, at least as a value add.
Yeah. A lot of our clients call and they'll just say, hey, Simon, not such and such address in this city. What do you think? What can I do here? And it might be a 5-minute call, or I might have to call them back after doing a little bit of investigation. But, they're out looking at lots, right? And they're out looking at pieces of property, and it can, with a 5-minute phone call or a half hour or something like that, you can figure out a lot. You can figure out quite a bit, right? That then they can either say, no, punt that, move on to the next, or, hey, yeah, let's put a preliminary offer and see where it goes. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much do you think it costs to build an ADU right now in Orange County per square foot?
How many bleep buttons do you have on your podcast? I'm going to get like a lot of comments on this one.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's get crazy.
So builders don't want anybody to answer that question, not because they're trying to hide the information, but because there's so many factors that go into it, right? So it's like, are you building this in Santa Ana? And I don't mean to knock anywhere, but I just mean like in terms of, general income and general demographics, right? Versus, let's say, the Newport Coast, right? Obviously, there's a difference between those two. I tell clients to start at $300 a square foot and go up from there. Yeah. A few years back, it was maybe $150, $200, $250, but nowadays I tell them start at $300 for something in the mid-range, right? Now, if you're going to get into like Wolf appliances, and you're going to get into, countertops that you're bringing in from Carrera in Italy, obviously that's a different ball game, right? But for just general planning purposes, $300 to $350 per square foot times the size of your ADU, it'll give you an idea.
Okay, and so 300 a square foot, 1,000 square foot ADU, which is about average, right?
Average, what I see is actually closer probably to 700 square feet.
Okay, let's round it up to 1,000.
Yeah, just to make math
a little bit easier.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
300,000. So 1 bedroom, again, it depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
You're renting that for $2,500 a month,
More maybe.
maybe more.
Yeah.
Well, let's call it 3,000
Yeah.
a month. So where's the cash flow in something like that? $300,000 to build this. If you're getting a loan for the entire amount, it's going to be about $3,000 a month.
Yeah, and I don't know how that pencils day one, and maybe it doesn't. So, curiously, most, and when I say most, I mean like more than 90% of the ADUs that we design are not for investment purposes just yet. It's growing, but most of the time people call us up, it's for family, grandma or adult son or adult child that may have some disabilities, but they want to be close to home.
Which is where it always has been.
Yeah,
In my past, is for granny.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And I've heard a couple things that you guys may know better on this, but I've heard some realtors will tell me that they can get the same dollar per square foot value for an ADU as the main house. And others have told me it's about half. And I don't know who makes that determination. So, but that makes a big difference in what you're planning financially.
The appraiser, I guess.
Yeah, and there's no way you get the same amount as the house. It just doesn't make sense because, let's say you have a 3-bedroom home and you put an ADU, you're looking at a 4-bedroom home basically.
Right.
It's not gonna pencil out.
There's just
the
no
appraiser,
comps,
and that's the problem. The appraiser is going to come over, and how does he appraise it if there's not 20 ADUs in the neighborhood where he can use the comparables? He's going to say this is just another bedroom.
Yeah.
And is the house next door 4 bedrooms? Yeah. Okay. Well, how much is that? And then we'll add a little bit more because it's a separate structure, and there's a stove and whatever else is in there. So. Appraisers have a hard time.
I'm sure they do.
They really do.
Yeah.
They have a hard time.
It's funny because, what was I going to say? Of course, now I forgot it. Nah, it'll come back to me in a minute. But what, the ADU is, if it's detached or attached, it has a different feel, right? And if it's attached to the home, then it could also maybe appraised for more because it feels like an extension out of the home. Whereas if it's detached, I don't know. Yeah, it's a judgment call for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Depends how much you like whoever's going to live there, I guess.
Yeah.
If you want them separate, totally separate.
Yeah, it's like built-in
build it
babysitter.
separate.
Right.
If your mother-in-law is going to be coming into the house every minute because it's attached, that's a different story, I guess.
It is true. Yeah.
So you're building custom ADUs.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Right.
So what do you feel about, I'm sure you've seen since the ADUs and the small homes have been getting bigger, more popular, people are now doing these prefabs that they can just bring in and drop in.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So my first thought is they look really cool. I mean, no doubt. I mean, for, an architect to see something that looks really contemporary and doing some corner glazing and some, maybe a butterfly roof or a shed roof or something with some really new materials, that looks cool. The practical side is that most of the time, most of the time in our suburban OC, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work not because of code, but because of code, but more likely because most cities want the ADU to look like it's meant to be there, like the main house.
Mm-hmm.
And most of our homes are traditional in some way. They might be like a Spanish colonial derivative or like a New England derivative. We don't have a lot of historic neighborhoods over here. But when you see a lot of these prefabs, and I'm sure from their marketing teams, they're making them very contemporary because it looks flashy and it looks amazing. It's just going to drop in out of the sky and it doesn't fit. And so it's going to get rejected. Now, where they make sense is in the outlying areas, like let's say out towards Joshua Tree or Big Bear,
right?
Or somewhere where getting the day-to-day, contractors up and down the mountain, that's tough, right? That's a long way for them to go. It's a lot of materials to haul up there. Whereas if you can just take one truckload and you've got 10 acres, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter whether it looks like the main house or not, because you can't see the main house from the ADU. That's a whole different story.
Right.
And then it can be a lot more cost effective.
Yeah.
But we find that very, very few prefabs are being built. A lot of them are being discussed. It gets a lot of buzz,
Right.
and it's cool, but we haven't seen them really come to fruition yet. The other thing is, they have to be approved to a certain degree at the state level, and then they have to still go through the city's process to a certain degree. So you got kind of a combination there, and now you've got another jurisdiction. And so, there's a company that is Boxable, Boxabl, I think they are.
Yeah.
They look like they're doing some great stuff.
Right.
And I know that they're working on state level approvals. I think they've got some state level approvals in some other neighboring states. So, keep an eye on what they're doing. They also look like they have some that are kind of more contemporary and some that are not. So that might fit in a little bit better.
I've seen that, then they have a different way of. Are they using different materials or something?
I think they
what?
unfold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
they come and they unfold. Yeah, so
That's interesting, and I guess with the 3D printing and all that kind of stuff, that could I guess get kind of interesting in your world.
yeah. I mean, I think I'll have to change jobs.
Well, I mean, you could you'll be the one plugging it into the computer, and
Right.
then you print out a house. You're like, there you go, there's your house.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a plan standpoint, they might not be that different, because it not to say it doesn't matter what material, but it's a little less important on some things.
Right.
But it certainly seems like the creativity could go through the roof. I mean, curving walls and round shapes and things like that, which you can do now, but it's just the cost versus effort to
Right.
do. You might not.
So a rusty container is not going to work in the backyard of a home in Lake Forest.
Just don't tell the city. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, it's not. Yeah.
They're spying on everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
They are.
it's probably pretty obvious. It's like
Yeah.
a crane comes in
Right.
and
Yeah.
drops this
Yeah.
thing you bought from IKEA. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
let
will
me-
say a little plug for Lake Forest because I live there. I love the city staff. They're great to work with. And and they've I mean,
Okay.
some cities are more challenging than others. Lake
Oh,
Forest
okay.
is great.
okay.
Have
there
they
you go.
gone to what I would call an online plan check?
No.
Thank God.
It's funny, like everything, there's two sides, right? Online plan check can be great because you're not printing out all those sheets and you're not spending all that money. I mean, it's hundreds of dollars every time we're printing out and submitting. But at the same time, that interaction, Lake Forest still does give handwritten, not even, sometimes not even typed up, but handwritten comments. And so it's great. I mean, you really feel like you're working with people.
you get information quicker that
You
way.
do?
You
Yeah.
don't put it in the machine and they send it someplace and then 3 weeks later you get, you need to do this. Okay, I've done that. Then you have to submit it back again and wait another 3 weeks. It's like ridiculous.
It's, ironically, you would think it'd be faster, right?
No,
Being
it's
electronic,
not.
it's not.
It's not.
No.
So
no.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
LA just recently built some homes for the unhoused. Let's call them unhoused. Unhoused. Okay. It costs them $600,000 per unit. Can you do it for less?
Yeah. I mean, me personally, I could swing some hammers.
Do you think that's ridiculous?
Yes. I would want to know where's the money going, right? Is it really
We all
following a
do.
normal
I think-
process?
I think
right?
Elon and Vivek are going to find out here pretty
right,
soon.
right. Or like, are they having to upgrade public utilities and things in order to, accommodate demand? And so therefore, I mean, I can imagine that taking a big chunk right away, things that we don't think about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's maybe a lot different than just adding a detached unit in the backyard.
Yeah,
But
I want to know who the builder was, and are they friends with anybody at City Hall?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
you know what I was going to say earlier was that the biggest thing that influences cost is size of square footage. So, and maybe that's why we see the average somewhere around 700 square feet. The state will give you up to 1,200. A lot of cities, and I just talked to a city today, they'll cap it at 1,000 for an ADU. And I asked them, do you know why? And she didn't. And that's okay. I need to find out myself. And I'm sure there's a good reason for it. But despite that, usually once you go over 800 square feet, you're subject to a lot more of the codes and a lot more fees. And so there are actually, let's say that's a disincentive, or in other words, there's an incentive to stay at $799 or sometimes $749 or less. And so, I mean, if you've got a $300K budget, maybe it's a 500 square foot ADU or 350 or 550 or 700, as opposed to just trying to max out. Because once you do hit that trigger point, that next critical point, then you're like, well, I better go all the way because I'm going to pay $20,000 in fees for, this connection and this park fee and this, et cetera, to city. So if I'm going to have to pay all that, I better go as big as I can in order to make back up that value. Whereas typical mom and pop, or for granny, maybe it doesn't need to be 2 bedrooms. She doesn't need it, right? So they can save it at 500 or 600 square feet and get a pretty nice unit. So.
Well, what happens if granny gets a boyfriend?
No,
you need 2 bedrooms. No?
She only has Pappy, and that's it. No more boyfriends after
That's
that.
it?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's just no comment from here.
Oh, she's done.
Maybe she gets Pappy there on a cruise ship.
Oh, yeah, new Pappy.
Yeah.
Hi, kids, I found a new Pappy.
Yeah.
Like, no. You mentioned when you first started, you kind of fell in love with architecture when you were drawing by hand. I'm assuming now that you've brought that into the computer world. Is that kind of like the main platform? Are you using like 3D modeling, 3D rendering?
Absolutely. So we typically do projects in 3 phases. The first phase is still drawn by hand. It's the most creative, it's the fastest, and it's the easiest to change, right? I mean, if they don't like it, then we can change it, right? I mean, we're not here to win awards. We're here to make it right for them and solve their problems and do that by code and by, the best use of their money, et cetera. The second phase is all on the computer. So nowadays we work in Revit, which is from Autodesk, and it's a 3D program just by default. It's not like drawing a thing and then converting into 3D. You're drawing in 3D from the get-go. And it's phenomenal because then it helps me. It helps me with proportions and getting, some technical things right, but also, getting proportions and getting the look and the feel right. And then when it comes to presenting to the client, it's wonderful, right? They can virtually walk through it. We can do video fly-throughs. You can send it off for, super detailed renderings. We do renderings, but sometimes nowadays it's easier to have that outsourced. And then our third phase is all of the construction documents and everything that goes to the city and structural engineering and Title 24 and all of the technical data. So it kind of breaks it down into a pretty easy process, but still definitely drawn by hand in the beginning.
But does the computer spit out all the renderings that you need for plumbing, all that stuff? I mean, you don't have to say, here, the circuit breaker is going to be over here, and it does all that for you.
That's a really good point. So in residential, we get less detailed than in commercial in a lot of ways, or like big mixed use projects. So there are certainly things like I might be designating where outlets are and where the circuit breaker panel is, for example, but I'm not writing in typically what each of the wire gauges is on the panel. It's not at that level of detail.
Okay.
The computer is helping make things easier, not by what it includes or excludes, but by if I draw one model, then that takes some time, right? But then once that model is drawn, I can cut sections through that model. I can do views from the top, left, bottom, underneath, all around it in moments. Right, I won't say seconds because I got to bill my time.
Sounds like an attorney.
Totally yeah, but that's the beauty of it. Is that like I'm building all of that in the first time, and then now I'm cutting views of that in order to show either a client or the city or an investor or something of that nature. So that's where the savings comes. Is more like on the back end, and then if there are changes, if I got to move a wall over 6 inches, I don't have to go back through all of my other plans and make sure that it also got moved. It just automatically, picks all that up.
Yeah.
So
does AI have any influence on you yet? Like, can you sit there and say, okay, this is what I want, 4 bedrooms, the kitchen here. I mean, can you literally talk to it and then it does it for you, or no, there's more?
I think you probably could. I'm not super versed at it yet. I'm kind of learning. I'm definitely learning. where I'm finding AI helpful so far is, if there's questions on a code interpretation, then I can look up some different opinions on that, and that'll kind of guide me a little bit, and then find the right answer. I'm not usually using it from a programming standpoint. In other words, like, okay, I want 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it's 2,000 square feet. Go, right? I guess at this moment, I'm still that AI. Will it get there? I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I understand it correctly, an AI is sort of, let's say, scanning every plan that's or slowly scanning every plan that's ever been made and finding patterns in it. Eventually, it'll probably a lot sooner than we want. It'll get there.
Yeah.
But what AI can't do, I don't know if it ever will. It can't get that sense from the client, and a lot of times, what our clients will tell us, they're not lying to us, but they won't be able to articulate it in a way that we need to interpret. And so it's you have to kind of understand, what are they trying to get at, what are their goals, right, as opposed to just draw and then draw again and then draw again. I mean, that's just a waste of time and money, right? So yeah.
Do you have, I don't want to say a lot, but I'm sure you have a few difficult clients that
No, never.
that you
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you a difficult client? I don't know. Would you be a difficult client?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, she's pretty mellow.
She doesn't send food back or anything, even if it's completely wrong.
Really? Oh,
I don't know about that.
I think she would rather live in a house that she hates than to tell the guy that she doesn't like it.
I don't know if that's true.
you're going to get yourself in trouble. You better stop.
I
Anyways,
That's
think
a different podcast.
You've got all this work that you put into it. The kitchen's over here, and the client says, I don't like it there. I want you to put it on the other side.
Does that happen?
Yes.
Sure. Not often. I mean, not often because we're amazing. No, but not often. Not often because if we're doing our job right in the first phase and we're asking a lot of questions, that's one thing I really learned is that, you got to ask a lot of questions. And I'm not always very good at that. A lot of times I'm listening, I'm observing, I'm interpreting, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I get it. Right. But maybe I don't. Maybe there's something crucial I'm missing. But if we're doing our job right and we're asking a lot of questions, then really those kind of major things should definitely be taken care of. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect every time. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Because what often does happen is, like, let's say I go to somebody's house, and whether it's a remodel or an ADU, and they've got an idea of what they want, and they know their house, obviously better than anybody, right? And I'm coming in for the first time, so I'm coming in cold. And they're like, well, what do you think? Should we put the kitchen over there? And I'm like, I got to look around, right? Like, I got to get some context and spend some time and sort of think about it. And so what can happen is that we'll put the kitchen there on the plans. But then once you see it on the plans and you get all the context and you can just see it and I kind of take a step back, you're like, oh, it doesn't make sense there.
Right.
And so I certainly have times where I will deviate from what they've asked for, give them that option, but also give them another option and say, hey, what if we did this? And for the most part, they'll be like, oh yeah, I can see it now. But sometimes they hold fast. I've got a client, really wonderful lady in Costa Mesa, and she gave me a pretty good sketch of what she wanted. I mean, junior architect level, right? And I followed it and gave that to her, and I gave her an alternative of what I thought was better, and she picked hers. So we're like, all right, that's okay. I mean, we can totally make it work, and by code, it's fine, and I want her to be happy, right?
Yeah, she's paying.
Yeah.
Got to make her happy.
Yeah. They're paying for plans, but they're paying for advice and guidance, right? More than anything.
I think that's where you're good with AI. I don't think you're going to lose your job tomorrow or anything like that because you're dealing face to face with a consumer.
Right.
And AI can't do that.
Right.
I mean, I guess they could talk to AI and say, here, do this, do that, but still you're not getting that feel. You must be like really creative as well. It's like, I'm like totally I could not go into somebody's home and say, you need to put the ADU there. We can attach it to this wall and then you can put this. That's not me. I could do that.
I think it's relative. I mean, like what I see is, maybe I'm more, let's say maybe I can draw better than you can at the moment. Right. But like I had to work to get there. Right. Like when I started, it was just stick figures, and my parents would laugh at me and that's okay.
He hasn't forgot.
You
though.
know, yeah. But now I can draw decently, right? But I look at artists, especially there's a watercolor artist who's my favorite, Thomas Schaller, up in LA, and I don't think I'll ever get there, right? And so I look at that and I'm like, that's divinity.
Yeah.
And then same thing for construction. I can't build. I can draw, but my wife will tell you that I can't build anything.
I can build.
Okay. Well, then we can team up then.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's start a new company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there certain architects that are like your Michael Jordan, or like who do you look up to? Or
You know
people
what?
that we would know?
I'm terrible at that, actually. I'm not good at naming architects. In fact, I remember starting out in my career and people would talk about, Frank Gehry.
Oh, okay. I was going to say Frank Lloyd Wright. Is he a hack, or is he just
No.
No.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I appreciate, their abilities, their creativity, but I've never been one to sort of like, really dive deep and like kind of get into their projects. The only one that I sort of really resonated with a lot was Irving Gill, who's an architect from the early, let's say like I think 1920s, 1930s, maybe. I could be wrong, but he did a lot of what we would now look at as like progressive Spanish influenced architecture. So if you see like a lot of buildings in Oceanside, and he had buildings up in LA too, but just very clean, very form following function. And there was a project that I had to do that needed to emulate his style. And so that's why I learned about him. And then, I could really, at first you look at it and the building looks kind of stark, and to the layperson you might think, well, it's just a couple of arches and a couple of deep set windows. What's the big deal? But like anything, right? You kind of get into it and you sort of understand where he was coming from. And then you realize in what era he was doing it. And it was far more progressive than anybody else that I knew of.
All right.
And then you can appreciate his art and architecture. But I'm not good with names. I couldn't, apart from, a couple of them, I can't really name them. So
Okay.
I think he's like over 100, and he was like in a bed, and they rolled him out and said, "I'm voting for Kamala." Oh no, that was Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was
Wrong guy.
Yeah, that was Jimmy Carter. I'm sorry.
Jimmy Carter did build some homes, though.
He did. Yes.
Homes for humanity.
Yeah.
Habitat for humanity.
Yes. Yeah. Wrong guy.
Wrong guy.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That was like a commercial break.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You guys ask good questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You have some videos?
We've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Do we have any comments or anything too?
We do. It's going back. We got a few here. Okay. So we got Chad in the chat. He said Joe's beard might be better than Alex's.
Oh. How dare you?
I've got color in mine.
I know. I need to gray mine out.
Yeah. I've just been really lazy and I haven't been shaving.
Looks good.
Like I said, I was gone last week on a cruise for a week.
Yeah, you got cruise face.
Yeah, it's like,
cruise face.
Why shave?
Yeah, I know. Looks good.
So.
Chad also said, what beach is the multifamily at, Joe? He's curious if it's a nice beach or not.
It's in San Clemente, right? Literally 2 blocks away from where the pier is.
Lock it up, Chad.
Lock it up.
Lock it up, Chad. It's honestly, this place has been sitting on the market for a while. I've had some investors that were interested in looking at it, but I always thought the play was, do the condo conversion on this and sell off 4 of them and keep the house, and hopefully you can sell. I mean, you could probably sell the individual units for about $700 each.
Okay.
So
Wow.
Something there.
Not too shabby.
yeah.
Definitely something there.
Who knows?
All right,
Just trying
we
to
got
think creatively. And by the way, congratulations on your new baby. Yeah.
All right, we got Stephanie in the chat. She says, on condo conversion, how do you resolve metering issues if the property only has 2 meters and resale would involve a total of 6 units?
You're going to have to add them. Yeah, the Public Works is going to make you add them. And one thing to think about is you might have to upsize the connections from the utility. And that's 2 things. One is, that's the cost of those, utility lines and such. The other is that when you're dealing with connecting to the public realm, now you're prevailing wage and going through a public the name escapes me, an encroachment permit. So, because you're basically working with the city on their side of things, you're outside of your property. So,
Sounds expensive.
investigate that.
Thank God it's not the Coastal Commission.
Sounds expensive.
Because I was thinking about shooting some rockets up from there too.
Yeah.
So they'd probably say no.
Yeah, they're not
You know.
for that.
Ironically, I've had a great run with the CCC.
Oh,
We've got a
yeah.
project in San Clemente actually that had to go through Coastal Commission and went through it just fine.
Oh,
And in pretty good timing. And then when we had to make some modifications, they were like, "Yep, that conforms." So I was like, that was pretty good.
Wow.
you notice how
Yeah.
he's like,
I'm not gonna-
sucking up to all the.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask.
Permitting
if
people.
we're
That's right. Yeah.
Republican
Just do some more plugs.
or Democrat.
Yeah.
He's
we're
like,
not gonna
no, they're
go
all
there.
great people.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
them all, from the secretary to the.
That's
I
right.
love the people at the city. They're so nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you bring them presents too?
I don't.
You're not allowed to.
like
Are you not allowed
donuts
to?
or- No.
No, not to the
Really?
city. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
He just
okay.
keeps it business, and that's fine.
We
That's
do.
good enough.
We do gifts for
You
our
don't take them out
clients.
to lunch? or-
No, I don't do that.
Really?
No, that's never been my strong side.
Okay.
No, I probably should. I mean, I don't know with city staff necessarily, but I could do a better job of that with clients too.
Yeah.
I do okay calling and checking in, but taking them out to lunch, I should probably spend some more money on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like you only have so much time in the day.
That's a good way to get referrals.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
somebody out to lunch. Everybody takes me out to lunch every day, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for lunch today.
Well, you're not out
That was
here
nice.
drawing custom homes and all that stuff. I feel like that might take a better part
It
of your
takes
day.
a lot of hours
a lot.
at X
lot.
dollars per hour.
He secretly has an AI doing it for
I know,
him.
Yeah. Right.
It's like 3-2,
Yeah.
1,700 square feet,
Right.
Yeah.
Spanish style.
Yeah.
I'll be in the water. Come find me.
Going surfing.
That's right. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, we got one more. A hey everyone from Liz.
Nice.
Hey, Liz.
And we do have some videos. Should we go to those?
Let's
Yeah.
check it out.
Let's go.
Here we go. First one, it says, ADU, what would you do? Sell or rent?
Thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the finance side isn't really what I get into,
Right.
but what I will say is that we have some folks, even in the neighborhood that I'm in, and they're doing just a garage conversion ADU, and they're going to rent it out for more than their mortgage. And it's a 1-car garage conversion. They've got a 3-car garage.
Yeah.
They're converting one of those spaces.
Oh.
So you're talking about 220 square feet. And now these homeowners bought, a few decades ago, right?
Sure.
Otherwise that wouldn't pencil.
Mm-hmm.
But just that
That's
is
nice.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of touched on it earlier where,
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah.
right on with your numbers, 300,000 to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
$3
that's how come I don't
grand to-
believe him. And the real estate agents who told them it was 450, they're just trying to get a listing.
Yeah.
Because that's not.
That
That doesn't work that
would
way.
a real estate agent ever lie?
Oh, I don't know.
They take
Yeah.
ethics courses, Joe.
All the time. All the time.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
That brings up something interesting in that we're in SoCal and then we're in Orange County of SoCal. And so, I have clients that watch YouTube videos and YouTube clips and stuff, and ADUs are not the same everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously cost isn't the same everywhere, but ADUs certainly aren't the same everywhere. So you have to ratchet it down to like, okay, you're also in Southern California and you're also in Orange County.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah, you may get higher rents, but it's going to cost.
And don't you think, Lee, you were talking before Santa Ana and the coast, don't you think if you're going to build an ADU in the coast, it's going to cost you way more than Santa Ana.
Yeah, I do find that.
Yeah.
So we generally, it doesn't take us more or less effort where it is. So our fees tend to stay about the same, unless somebody's doing something really crazy, like a rotating restaurant on top of the ADU.
Oh,
You know,
that'd be nice.
That would be nice.
right. But generally the fees are about the same, but definitely build costs are higher. And sometimes that just has to do with the fact that like the level of finishes are going to be higher. And then sometimes it's, there's a term for it, but it's like zip code, charge you by your zip code, right? Oh, they can afford it more. I'm going to charge them more.
Mm-hmm.
But every client that I work with, whether they're rich or not quite so rich, they all have the same mantra, right? They want to spend their money wisely, whether it's $1 million, $500,000, $250,000, or, or less. So they want to feel the value more than anything else.
Well, and that's nice. So you can kind of provide them that advice. you
Yeah.
know, so.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys have more millionaire clients, you can just send them my way. That's fine.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. We're not sure, we're not long on those.
I'm actually getting some feedback from the audience that there's no sound on the videos when they're playing.
Oh.
We can hear sound, but
Yeah.
they're not getting it. And I checked it on
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You should just play it and then unmute all that.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
All right, we got another video, and we're going to hope the sound works out there for you guys. This one is about, do neighborhoods need to evolve?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's still like missing the sound. So just let me do a little recap. Basically, they're doing a news story on San Diego has some ADU laws that they passed, so making it easier. This developer decided to put two-story ADUs in the back, and the neighbor's saying basically I have no more privacy. He's saying that's going to have to change and evolve as we're trying to solve the the housing crisis.
That's tough, right?
Yeah, two different perspectives.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
what are
tough.
your thoughts?
I mean, one thing the gentleman did say on the video is that you don't buy your neighborhood, you buy your home. I actually disagree with that. With all due respect to him, we bought in the neighborhood that we bought because we knew that we could change our home, but we can't change our neighborhood, and we love the neighborhood. So we're like, this is where we want to be. We can modify the home.
Yeah.
I think it's tough. You've got a housing crisis, no doubt, right? And people need places to live. And for years, ADUs have been around for decades, but they're a relatively new buzz term again. For years, we complained about low-cost apartments, right, going up next to single family. So it's kind of like, we've always complained, and nobody wants somebody that's on the second story looking down into their yard, that's for sure. We've been fortunate enough to work with folks that try to take that into consideration. And there are certain things we can do to take it into consideration. For example, maybe on the side of the home or the ADU that's going to face the neighbor, that's where you put some windows that have a high sill. So you're not looking down into their yard. And that the windows and doors that are looking into your own yard are the bigger windows. So, there's a building that's 4 feet from your property line, but it's facing away from you. There are certain things that we can do to try to address that, or bathrooms with windows that have frosted glass. So you can let the light in, but you can keep the privacy, right? Is that totally reasonable? I do think that people in general are coming to terms with that there are ADUs and there's more development coming. I think it's very easy to be NIMBY. We can all do it. right? But it's really easy to forget that we also moved here. So I think it's going to be kind of an ongoing battle. But if we can try to consider others and their privacy issues, and I have one client who we've done several ADUs for in cities like Fullerton and Garden Grove and stuff. And I said, oh, by the way, we're putting an ADU in the backyard. I said, by the way, you can convert the garage to a junior ADU if you wanted to, because he had a tenant in the main house. He was going to have a tenant in the ADU. And so he's clearly doing this for investment purposes only. And so I said, well, you could convert the garage to a junior ADU. That's perfectly legal. And he's like, you know what? I don't want to mess with my neighbors. He doesn't even live there. He goes, I don't want to, have 3 cars plus 4 cars plus 5 cars. There's already a parking issue. So is everybody like that? No. But there are things that we can do, right? Even if you go from one tenant to now 2 separate properties or, incomes, that's already a pretty big jump. We can be considerate of others.
Yeah,
but
I think you're right. I mean, if you're going based off of looks, of course they pick the guy that's like, he's like the developer guy in the sport coat. And he's
right.
It's like, you got to deal with it, folks.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, you go up to Long Beach, it'll be like a house, apartment buildings, house, apartment buildings, house, apartment. And I guess now it seems completely normal, but I guess, so it's kind of the same thing. It's going to be weird at first, and then you just get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we need more housing.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Are ADUs the only solution? No. Definitely there are far less ADUs being built than there are new units every year. But what I do like is that if properly done, let's say you have an ADU that's in the backyard and it's single story and it's not overlooking the fences, 9 times out of 10 from the street, you're not even going to know. Mm-hmm. You're not going to notice. Okay, maybe there's one more car. But how many houses do we see now where it's like, the teenagers, then they get their cars, right? So you've already got several cars in one house. Maybe at some point those teenagers are moving out, right, going to college. And so now you're replacing the one car that's left with one car for the ADU.
Sure.
We're not typically finding ADUs with like 5 or 6 people living in them. It's generally one or a couple, or maybe a couple and a baby, and then they move up, to another house. So I think we all need some more consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit complaining.
That's what people love to do.
They do.
It's
a
easy.
hobby.
That's going to change.
It's easy.
That's all going to change.
That's going to change.
Well, I mean, you brought up we need new housing, more housing. That brings up like the regulations, and we're just getting more and more and more of those, making it harder and harder to build.
That's going to change.
How do you solve that problem?
Well, ironically, it's getting easier to make ADUs.
Right.
So that's great for us.
That's good news.
Yeah.
That is good news.
Yeah. There are some things that are getting harder. Some utilities are getting harder. Where the state's moving away from natural gas, moving more towards electric. That can be challenging for some things. But, less setbacks, less lot coverage issues, taller height limits, those kinds of things. It's getting easier. I think if we can maintain the quality, right? I mean, now, I'm not saying that just because we do custom ADUs versus like prefab, but I think it's always going to be easier to build a stucco box than it is to put some creativity in it and just at least have a couple of sides of that building with some different materials so it looks good as well as being functional. That's what I would like to see, whether it's prefab or custom build.
Yeah, I think you're right, because you could really go just like cheap and trashy with it. And
I've seen it. Yeah,
that's not the answer.
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes we have to do that because that's the budgetary limitation, and it's like it's either that or somebody doesn't have a place to live, right?
Yeah,
and I've seen projects where they're going to convert an attic into livable space and make it permitted and make it nice, and they come to find out that there's somebody that's been living up there illegally, for who knows how long.
Raccoon.
No,
that's scary.
Yeah, no cooking facilities.
Right.
Doing takeout every day because people are desperate for housing. So
yeah,
yeah.
We were looking for a place to rent. People will call a studio like it literally is 4 walls and there's a bathroom, but yeah, there's no kitchen. So you're like, what? There's a hot plate maybe,
right?
Like a sink.
It's a studio.
Yeah.
It should have
It's a
like
studio. I'd list that place and call it a studio.
Is it by the beach?
Yeah, it's by the beach.
I know that's
yeah.
the part.
That's
yeah.
by the
a
beach.
closet.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
want
a
to live
closet,
near the
right.
beach? This is a studio.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We had a studio by the beach. We had a full kitchen, a full bathroom, and a walk-in closet.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There was the key word there was had. You're like, you're longing for
No,
it.
they've moved up.
We
in the world.
upgraded.
They've upgraded.
Yeah.
Doing good things.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have a lot more like ADU questions. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Email probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can leave you guys my card if you want to put
sure.
it, but I can say it on here if you want.
Sure, yeah.
Sure. It's just SH Design Ethos. So that's SHDESIGNETHOS @gmail.
Cool.
Yeah. Email's probably the best. Yeah.
Perfect.
But
Okay. Yeah. We'll hopefully send some more investors your way. And I know it's,
that'd be great. I mean, being the architect on a project, we are the quarterback. So, we bring in the consultants, we bring in other people to help on the project. So we are sending work out, far more often than we're getting work in. Like I say, it's a cast of characters. So if a project comes our way, most people don't call a Title 24 company for, to start a project, right? They're like, what's that all about? Or even a structural engineer. So, structural engineers and folks like that, they depend on projects coming through us, right? So we're giving even a lot more than we're taking for sure. But yeah, if you got people that want to find out more, happy to help, happy to talk.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that flew by. That was amazing.
That was.
Yeah.
Wow. It's 5 after.
I know. I appreciate you coming down here, and
You're welcome,
I'm glad
yeah.
that you're local, and maybe we can get you at a meetup sometime.
Yeah, actually, I went earlier. What was it? Last month, maybe. I'll be there end of this month, like you
sweet.
said. Yeah,
Cool.
So, but yeah, thank you very much again for the opportunity. Be happy to come back if you ever want me for something else. So,
Yeah, love to.
Yeah, thanks again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. We have our meetup at the end of the month, so make sure you are RSVPing to that so you can get all the reminders.
You can RSVP?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can through Meetup.
Yep.
Yeah.
OCinvestormeetup.com. Take you right there.
Yeah.
So, anything
Well,
else?
Thank you. No, we're good.
Okay, cool.
We're
Well,
good.
yeah, thank you everybody in the chat. And if you caught the last half or the very end of it, make sure to go back, rewatch the beginning, and share it with any new and experienced investors in your life. We'll be back here next week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
If you want some more advice on real estate investing, reach out to us one-on-one.